For Creamer Media's Polity, I'm Leanne Kolfer. Publisher Sas Kloppers joins me in studio to discuss the book Ode to the Miner, telling the story of mining in South Africa as seen through the eyes of artists. Firstly, why did you decide to put together this book, and why was this a story that had to be told?
You know, I was approached by Anton Skonken, who is a keen collector of art and has quite a collection of the works of Tienie Pritchard, especially some of Pritchard's sculptures of miners. And when he approached me, I had to consider how would I go about to do a book on a couple of sculptures of miners. And at the time, and I think it's pure coincidence, the strikes started and the uproar in the mining business, and then Marikana. And I realized, well, this is maybe the right time to focus on the plight and the story of the miner. And I think that was the reason why I actually started this publication. But as I was approached to do a book on sculptures, which is art, how would I go about to combine art and the history of mining? But I think also the Marikana and what happened before and after was that they became the public became aware of what's happening in the mines. And I know that our memory of history events are very short. So this gave me the opportunity to research and go back into the history of mining. But then we live in a modern era. Visuals is very important. And that's why I tried to illustrate as far as possible by using art. But then I came across so many interesting early photographs that this book grew from an initial 100 pages to what we have here, 342 pages. I want to add, you know, we became indifferent to the workers who produce commodities that we buy from the shelves or via internet. And the miner who spent most of his time underground, what they actually brought to the shelves, whether it's diamonds or gold, these keep the hearts of the fiancés beating and the industry running.
And then, where did you find the material for this book? How did you do your research, and how long were you working on the project for?
I've been in publishing since 1978, but also became a researcher and author. And during that time, I've started collecting books on various subjects. So I built up my personal library. And before the request to do this book, I had already done a book on African indigenous knowledge, mining and art. So the basic work were done when I started with this publication. But then, you know, the biggest problem was, apart from the research, to get copyright, publishing rights, and actually this was a tedious work. We struggled to get the right people to sign off the rights and so forth. But fortunately with Mining Weekly it went very easy. I got an immediate response and included some of your material in this book. So the research took me about 3 years, and I came across the most wonderful material. And I want to mention something here. I also experienced a very tragic incident while doing this research. While researching the old mines, the first mines, official mines, like the one in Ottershoop, there were almost no material available. Then I met a woman in Ottershoop by the name of Cheryl Bester. And she supplied me with all the info because she built up a little library on this mining many years ago. And she supplied me with the material, and 3 weeks after, because I set up a meeting with her, she was killed. And then the other interesting thing or aspect, there's a very important collection of old, antique mining artifacts discovered by a woman by the name of Brenda Sullivan. And this whole collection was given to the museum in Berkeley West, and it disappeared. We followed the tracks up to Mafeking and nothing. But I got photographs of some of those artifacts, which is included in this book. And hopefully one day we'll find, somebody will find that collection, because it's got the most amazing artifacts that were found in the Kimberley Berkeley West Kimberley Berkeley West area, Bloemhof.
Okay, and then you mentioned that the book was inspired by the sculptures by Tienie Pritchard. Can you tell us a bit more about this artist and his work?
Well, there's a lot of new, younger, upcoming artists, but Tienie now I think he's just over 80 years old. He's one of the most prolific sculptors presently, as he just kept on creating new works. He actually became well known for his sculptures of the nudes, which he got write-ups and positive and negative. But what makes him different is that his sculptures covers a wide spectrum, from wildlife to the nude to mythology, which is some of his most beautiful works, and then the miners. Most important is the one standing just down the road here, George Harrison. That's one of his works.
Okay, then the book comments on the history of mining in South Africa as illustrated through art. What do you believe is the most important message this book conveys?
The title says it all, and it reminds me of the saying, gold and art, the partnership between capital and culture. So many wars were fought about minerals, but while the war was going on, looting of art also took place. If you take away art, it's actually stealing the soul of a nation. And that's why I did my utmost best to get as many images of art to illustrate. And then it led to the last chapter, where we started to look for artists who painted or sculptured aspects of mining. And that was an eye-opener. I think very few artists did not try their hands on something about mining. So that's why I've tried to portray, not only the history of mining, but it gives an insight, or the paintings, some of the older paintings, before the camera gives us a real view of the technology and mining methods.
Okay, and then you said the book contains many interesting facts about the history of mining in South Africa. Can you highlight a few of the things that you found most interesting?
Yes, the most interesting one that I found personally was the train explosion in Braamfontein, where 25 tons of dynamite exploded, leaving an enormous hole, and 72 people killed, and the body parts were collected into 4 coffins. And unfortunately, I didn't try to find out what happened to that enormous crater, actually. It must have been filled up over time, and that's one of my one of the aspects that I'm going to follow up now, because I'm still working on other aspects of mining. So that's one. Then the first painting of ore crushing by Thomas Baines, that painting. Also the first map and the first syndicate that was established in 1794. And we found that map. It was in Simonsberg in the Cape. And then, you know, it comes to light that in so many parts of South Africa, from Table Mountain right through up to Limpopo, they prospected and they found minerals, but not always worthwhile exploring, mining.
And then there's also a deluxe edition and a DVD of the book available. How do these differ from and add to the original version?
All our art books are we do in limited editions, whether it's the standard edition or the deluxe editions. So all these books go to collectors. And doing this special deluxe edition, we found a niche market for those, for the very specialized, or the collectors who specializes in certain artists or in certain aspects of art. So it just makes the whole edition very special. And we go to, you know, as far as possible to make these deluxe editions really something different.
Okay, thank you so much for speaking to us.
Thank you, Leanne.
That was Sas Kloppers speaking to Creamer Media's Polity about the book Ode to the Miner.